Welcome to Nutritional Medicine by Lab Analysis. I'm Dr. Cyrus Thomas. We've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about the perfect health diet by a fellow named Paul Jaminet. He was an astrophysicist and he started getting sick. So did his wife. They came together and they decided to figure out what was going on. And strangely enough, two people. She's in medicine. She's a cellular biologist, I believe, but he's not. And still they did a fantastic book about health and nutrition. If you ever saw the movie Lorenzo's Oil, it's about two parents who decide to figure out chemically what to do for their son who was ill, and they ignored all the doctors and went ahead and did it on their own. So it can be done by lay people. We might ask who should watch this program. And this show is for people who suspect that maybe the answer lies in nutraceuticals. We would say that, and it's also for people who want to not feel stuck with feeling toxic, and who want to avoid surgeries. And they suspect that nutrition doesn't just mean shopping in a health food store, that at its deeper level, when utilized as a medical science, has much to offer them. This program will show you a safe way to take nutrients to cure chronic ailments. You know, a lot of people think that when they go to the health food store and they're going to get healthy, all of a sudden they're going to eat vegetables. And they've got this thing, because of a large industry and a lot of people making money, that they shouldn't be having any meats or dairy. We're going to find out tonight that that's not quite the case. This is a safe way based on blood tests, and the doctors has a way to follow up to know the effectiveness of the nutritional medicines by retesting blood tests in urine and comparing the new results to the previous results. So we'll know the effectiveness of what was done. Perfect health diet. Jaminet was the fellow who did this. This is a video of me in my office. It's kind of fun to watch. And I'll set that going while I talk to you. There we go. We've got a volume on this laptop. If we could take the volume off of that, that would be good. Okay, so we'll switch to the next one because I can't seem to control that. This diet is essentially the Pacific Island diet. It's a ketogenic diet, meaning ketones are molecules that you make when you're burning your own fat. That's a good thing to do. That keeps you slim. Ketogenic diet. It's also called the paleo diet, but instead of that, we could call it the pre-agriculture diet or the pre-cereal grain diet. In other words, it's a diet from before 6,000 years ago when man was first came together and they started living in communities in the Euphrates and along the rivers in India. They had hunted out the area around them, and they couldn't get any more animal products to eat, so they had to start eating grains and legumes. This diet could also be called a high plant, low carb diet, and also it could be called the no toxic food diet, which is pretty interesting. The summary of the perfect health diet is that it is 35% meats and oils, 65% plants. So even though it's a high fat diet, the amount of plants is really quite high. The reason why the fats seem high is because fats give us over twice the number of calories per gram than proteins or carbohydrates. So if this diet is actually, when you look at just calories, it's 85% fat, 15% protein, and 20% carbohydrate. And the reason why we need carbohydrates is going to become clear quite soon. Do eat about 20% of your total calories from starchy tubers, as in rice, fruits, and berries. So this is a no cereal diet, but it's not a no cereal completely, because rice essentially is a cereal or a grain. That's the only exception. Fruits and berries have 400 calories of carb calories per day. That's about 2 cups of white rice or 2 cups of potato or 1 cup of white rice and 1 cup of potato. Eat as many vegetables as you like, but don't count any calories from vegetables, and be sure to include seaweed for iodine. In total, you might eat 1.5 pounds of plant food per day. So people think the paleo diet is an all-meat diet. It is not. Do not eat grains and cereals, including wheat, oats, and corn, but excluding rice. You can eat rice, or any products made from them, including bread and pasta. Do not eat sugar, corn syrup, or products containing them, such as soda and sweets. Do not eat legumes, such as soybeans, kidney beans, pinto beans, or peanuts. Reason why: they contain alpha amylase inhibitors and phytohemagglutinins called PHA. These can be given to many different lab animals, and we can see what it does to them quite quickly. Humans don't eat enough of them every day to ruin them quickly, but it does ruin them over a long period of time, and it does it slowly. Do not eat omega-6 rich vegetables, vegetable seed oils. Okay, that's all the oils that are being used now in all the fast food places, such as soybean oil, which is 75% of all the oil eaten in the US, corn oil, safflower oil, peanut oil, or canola oil, which was invented by man in 1977. These are not good oils to eat. Email me and I'll send you the details on the toxins in grains and legumes so that you can see the chemical list of what they are. Cyrusky, that's what the kids used to call me, at yahoo.com. CYROO, that's O's are not zeros, those are O's, SKI at yahoo.com. These do not eat foods, which we just went over, contain naturally toxic proteins, excessive fructose and omega-6 fats, and few nutrients. When you eat toxic-free foods, you are on a fast. You are fasting from all the toxins that there are in food. Also, another good thing to do, which I don't know if I have this in a future slide, so I'll tell you now, is to eat over an 8-hour period. That gives you 16 hours until you eat again. During that 16 hours, your intestine is able to process your food. Your liver is able to process many of the chemicals that came from that food, and everything is at rest and ready to receive food again. So actually, essentially, you're fasting daily. According to Jim Annett, who wrote the book, all grains and legumes have substances that encourage poor digestion of all other foods in the gut to promote inflammation and the production of a greater quantity of stool in your body, thereby spreading the seeds. So think about it. Evolutionarily, these grass seeds developed to know that the seeds that had the chemicals that would inflame the intestines of whoever ate them and make it so that they couldn't digest other foods that they were eating would result in larger stool. Those larger stools would be meant that the animal defecated more frequently, and those seeds were deposited more readily than seeds that did not cause inflammation. So that seed gained preponderance, and that's how survival of the fittest works, even for seeds. Most plants all plants, seeds included, have developed toxins in them so that insects and other animals would not eat them. Animals do not develop toxins in their body so that other animals will not eat them. So it is safe to have meats and it is safe to have dairy products for that reason. We have to be very careful of the kind of plants that we eat. The vegetables that are okay to eat, we have developed them over time for them to be safe, although we haven't done that with legumes and we haven't done that with grains, mostly because it's only fairly recently that we've discovered what the toxins are in those foods. So here they are. Prolamines are a group of plant storage glycoproteins having a high proline content and found in the seeds of cereal grains. It's called gliadin for wheat, hordein for barley, secalin for rye, zein for corn, cafferin for sorghum, and avenin is in oats. Buckwheat contains no gluten and can consequently be eaten by people with celiac disease or gluten allergies. Rice also contains no gluten. Wheat germ agglutinin, or WGA, is a lectin that protects wheat, this type of wheat, the most common type, from insects, yeast, and bacteria so that those things won't eat the wheat. WGA is found abundantly but not exclusively in the wheat kernel. Jaminet adds, it damages the intestines and interferes with vitamin D action. It sabotages the immune system and it promotes chronic infections. Gluten is toxic to intestinal cells. 83% of the adult population develops observable gut inflammation after eating gluten. It's not just a Marin fad to think this way. This is anybody that is tested. 30% make anti-wheat gluten antibodies in the intestines, and 11% make it in the systemic circulation. 11% of that makes it to the systemic circulation. That means it's in the blood that's throughout the body. Only 4% of people are celiac. That is where, that is a specific type of sensitivity. It's where they are extremely sensitive. But the rest of us are almost all sensitive as well. And pasteurized milk should be avoided, but do eat fermented or fatty dairy foods like butter or cream or ice cream, good ice cream, the good stuff from the health food store. Sour cream, cheese, and yogurt are okay. Pasteurization tends to overheat milk and it denatures the protein molecules that are in the milk. The reason why we want thicker dairy is because within the water refraction of milk and skim milk are dissolved biologically active cow hormones and potentially allergenic proteins. Fatty and fermented dairy foods are safer. Raw milk proteins are more easily digested than pasteurized milk proteins. Dry, lean meats, which are protein rich but fat poor, are to be avoided. Avoid dry, lean meats because there's too much protein, there's not enough fat, and you get over that 15% protein limit that we should do each day, because over that 15%, it can be demonstrated that people have protein toxicity. So if a lot of people out there are trying to be real healthy, they're eating all the complete grains, the whole grains, they're eating tons of chicken and turkey, which are all the dry meats. They're having much too much protein in their diet. They're getting too much wheat germ agglutinin and other toxins in the grains, and the only good thing they're doing is vegetables, and they're probably staying off of dairy because they say that produces mucus. Yet all the European countries have raw cheese regularly on a daily basis, and we are 38th in world health. So the Europeans are doing something that we need to start copying. Fasting. There's not enough time to cover this subject on this show, maybe in a future show, but with all my patients, I show them how to do short-term ketogenic fasts. These are easy to do. They regenerate the liver and work wonders for neurological and liver disorders. Include white rice, a safe starch, regularly in all forms: noodles, cakes, whole rice, and spaghetti. Brown rice these days has too many toxins in the bran of the outer shell. I know, we've all been taught to eat brown rice instead of white rice, and this is a turnaround. It is a turnaround, and it's being done because we know more now. Eat only one piece of fruit a day. It can actually go to 3, but if you think about 3 every day, you'll end up just getting too much in the long run. Think about having a piece of fruit each day, as well as all fructose must be converted into glucose by the liver. Otherwise, fructose is toxic to the systemic circulation And we don't want to overtax the liver. We have fruit with heavy cream. It's just a wonderful way to combine fats with anytime you have sweets. That's a smart thing to do. Always combine some fats with sweets. You can even melt coconut oil or butter and pour it over fruit. It really is quite wonderful to have it that way. That's the way the islanders have been doing it for millennia. Try to get all animal products as grass-fed. Try to get all dairy as raw and unpasteurized. You can have 2 eggs a day or 4 yolks a day. Cholesterol will be lowered by the good saturated fats in the animal products and cholesterol will not be created by too high a diet in carbohydrates. Have 400 calories a day of simple carbohydrate starch. Potatoes, sweet potatoes are best, or from rice or taro. If you do not eat at least this amount of carbohydrate, your liver will manufacture the glucose you need. And this is, again, another undue burden on the liver. So we don't want the liver to have to produce glucose, occupying itself. It has thousands of other things to do. We also don't want the liver to have to take a whole lot of fructose and turn it into glucose and glycogen. We want to unburden the liver as much as we can. Make stew with bones and use a little vinegar to digest the bones, ligaments, and cartilage. In other words, eat what you are. If you've got problems with your knee, think about eating foods that have all those same types of molecules in them. It really makes sense. This is Jim Annette and his wife. Have at least 2 tablespoons of coconut oil a day and at least 1 tablespoon of organic salted butter a day. This is probably the most important thing that I've said so far on this program. 2 tablespoons of coconut oil or butter and 1 tablespoon of organic salted butter each day. Salt food to taste. The kidneys control blood pressure. They do a wonderful job when the whole body is healthy. Carbohydrates harden arteries and result in increased blood pressure. This diet eliminates that. For a sweetener, use turbinado sugar. Then when you get used to it, use maple syrup. And then when you get used to that, switch to stevia or just have berries with some heavy cream or a piece of fruit. This is a way of starting with, sugars if you're used to them and working it so that you can wean off of them. Paul had a hard time with sweets, getting used to this new diet. In the realm of tree nuts and nut butters, macadamia and Brazil are the best. Almonds are fine. They are the most preferred nuts, and the nuts to avoid are walnuts because the omega-3 to 6 ratio is so poor with them. One of the ways we can find out how sick a person might be is by using medical analysis, blood tests and urine tests, and then treating them with nutrition. We do a blood test of 52 different substances. Here we have what was done on their first blood test, and then their most current one is in the left column. I have a close-up of that. Yellow is a warning, red is a high risk, and blue is critical. And you could see that when this person came in, they had a lot of reds and a couple of blues, and eventually they had mostly yellows and only 1 red. They did quite well. We're testing for cholesterol, the entire profile, the entire thyroid profile. This is 52 items long. Most doctors test for 25 or so. We have a little stricter value. The laboratory tells you that if you're between here and here, you're doing fine. But we know that people who they tell you if you're between the dotted lines, you're doing fine. You're abnormal if you're in the blue. But a lot of people who are here in the beige are not feeling good and they don't know why, and everybody tells them that their values are normal. We use a much stricter range, so we like to get people in this place. We use hair analysis as well because the hair follicle has a blood artery and a vein going into it to create the hair shaft. And it pulls a lot of substances from the blood and puts them in the hair. Then we test the hair and we find a lot of heavy metals, that's the top half, and we find a lot of good metals and a lot of good minerals. The heavy metals should not be moving to the right here. We want them all back on the 0 line. The other ones that we want a little bit of should be in the middle, and we don't want too little of them or too much of them. A very valuable test, a very inexpensive way to find out a lot of information too. The hair contains minerals and essential elements like copper, chromium, iodine, sulfur, and iron, 22 essential elements. It tests for 17 heavy metals like arsenic, lead, mercury, tin, and aluminum. A blood test alone will miss this. Key points. We also do many more tests than the 52 and the hair analysis that I showed you. We include cancer markers. We do cancer markers before a person is suspected of having cancer. This way, we find out if it's on its way there. We check the trend. So if you've been wondering if you're doing okay, you want to know if you're moving towards that, we can test the cancer markers and tell you how you're doing. A healthy range is created. We use that narrower range that I talked about earlier. Lab results are compared with other people's lab results, and how well they did on particular nutrients is also looked at, so that when nutrients are recommended for you, we know the track record on those nutrients, and when we prescribe them to you, we can do so with confidence. We also do follow-up studies, as you saw, where we list the prior results with the current results, so that we are evaluating how well we're doing on the nutritional program, and it's not guesswork. If you were to design a better system, could you? I couldn't. I think it's wonderful, and medicine will be practiced like this in the future. The results speak for themselves, however. You can visit my website and read the case histories that are there. www.alternativeintegrativemedicines, plural, .info. In the news, we have some new things that have taken place. When cells know they are dying and they wish to euthanize, they oxidize essentially polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are omegas-3s and 6s, which are the polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they turn them into eicosanoids, which creates inflammation. This is a good inflammation, and the cell does this on purpose. The eicosanoids trigger the immune system to come and phagocytize or eat the dying cell. Aspirin and ibuprofen prevent this in their anti-inflammatory capacity, and so whenever we take it for pain control, we are impeding our ability to house clean dying cells. I know this is a mouthful, but if you've recorded this show, you can go back and read it again. If in the news also, if we have too many free radical molecules in the body, these are the bad guys, and too much polyunsaturated fatty acids, the polyunsaturated fatty acids are oxidized, and if there is not enough glutathione to scavenge the dead cells, aldehydes are formed, and they create oxidized low-density lipoproteins, the bad kind of LDL, and this leads to atherosclerosis. So essentially what we're saying is, if we allow free radicals to exist in the body, we end up with problems metabolizing fats, and it leads to hardening of the arteries. A nutraceutical is an extract of foods with a medicinal effect on human health. The nutraceutical is usually contained in a medicinal format, such as a capsule, tablet, or powder in a prescribed dose. More rigorously, a nutraceutical implies that the extract of food is demonstrated to have a physiological benefit or provide protection against chronic disease. That's a wonderful thing. That makes nutraceuticals medicines, perhaps the most modern medicines that we have. Of the different modalities that there are for healthcare, structural, molecular, talk therapy, and energetic therapy, the molecular therapy is the most interesting. It's food, nutraceuticals, herbology, and drugs. Let's take a closer look at that. These are all chemicals. Food's chemicals, nutraceuticals are chemicals, herbs are chemicals, and so are controlled drugs. They all go in by the mouth and to the intestines, and then to the blood, and then to the cells. They all go into the cells and affect chemistry there. So in other words, pharmaceuticals that one gets a prescription for are no different molecules than our nutraceuticals. They all go to the same place. Food, nutraceutical, and herbs are naturally occurring. They're non-patentable and remain at low cost. Controlled drugs are molecular as well. They're not natural. They're patentable, and so they are at high cost, at least at first. Under molecular treatments, natural occurring substances like herbs and nutraceuticals, they make up for what is missing in our food. They supply what the body would normally require, and they make the body work the way it did before it became ill. However, controlled drugs are man-made molecules. They're different from what are found in foods or healthy bodies, and they treat the symptoms instead of the cause of the ailment. Smart medicines are nutraceuticals. The last 30 years have shown an explosion in nutritional knowledge. The only difference between nutraceuticals and controlled drugs is that they are found in nature and so cannot be patented for profit. Nutraceuticals are medicines. They are complex molecules. This shows how an enzyme works. Essentially, an enzyme is this gray material. Molecules come into it, they fit in. The enzyme can change both of those molecules and let them go and be different things. Now, enzymes can be made of vitamins, minerals, or amino acids. So if you're wondering what these things do in your body, what do we need vitamins for, or minerals, or amino acids, it's because usually they're acting as an enzyme to change one molecule into another. That needs to take place. Don't stop your medications unless you make changes. Not wise to just drop your medications if you're not going to make some nutritional changes in your life. Make the nutritional changes first. Pharmaceuticals give support, but once nutraceuticals begin to affect a cure, then follow-up blood and hair tests will show that it is wise to reduce them. Diet plays a large role. All of this must be taken into consideration, and a chemically balanced person can handle most stress physically and emotionally. So stress, even though it's in all of our lives, if we